Welcome into the studio, everybody. Now, if you're on this video, you're probably looking into how to paint realistic textured rock. Now, we're going to go into it with different acrylics and inks on our existing Sculpey plaster and DOS air dry clay base. So let's go ahead and get into the studio. Let's get some detail work done on this awesome rock texture. All right, all you lovely viewers out there, if you are tuning into this video, yes, indeed, you're going to be watching me paint and detail this rock formation that we had sculpted on this diorama base. Now, this has been a very enjoyable process, and the customer has been absolutely fantastic through the entire process. Now, in this video, I'm going to begin by just base coating the actual clay structure with the Mars Black, and then we'll kind of begin the process of actually painting out the rock texture here. Now, you can paint rock texture a ton of different ways, let's be honest. However, you can get the same effect that I'm getting here if you just follow this process. So Mars Black is usually what I'll begin the process with, just because when you're going over a lot of clays, you can get chipping and little pieces that come off or things like that, or little dusted areas. And when you go over the Mars Black, it kind of like seals all that up, and it just gives you a really good base to work off of, instead of just building up a lot of those layers. You can go over the white itself with the titanium white, and then just build up browns on top of that, and you get a lot brighter rock formation. But a lot of times I like for my rock formations to be very dark and dingy. That way they just have a lot more rich color when you come in with the browns or washes or anything that you come in with later on in this overall video. I'm also going to start to introduce a little bit of titanium white. You can also use pain gray with the titanium white and get a little bit more of a bluish tint if you would like to go that route. The camera is almost picking up on a little bit of blue in this overall dry brushing combination here, but it's actually more so just a gray. You add more titanium white on those highlighted raised edges, the more you would like for them to be accented. Just remember that a lot of these layers here are going to be covered up by dirt flocking and things like that. So anything that you really know for sure that you're going to cover up and is never going to be visible, you could just skip that painting process. But for the most part, for my peace of mind, a lot of times I'll just go ahead and paint the whole thing. That way I don't have to worry about it specifically covering one thing or another. Here's where you can really see a lot of that dry brushing, bringing that rock to life, and all that sculpted texture that we applied in the sculpting process, which is the previous video of this version here. You can definitely see all that's coming forward in the rock textures. We're also going to go over the inside of the actual water bowl itself a little bit, but it's going to get a really dark brown highlight over that with a lot of like cakey paint and debris. So I'm not really worried about the inside of the bowl itself very much. We're just doing it just in case anything is peeking through any of those like muddy textures that we apply inside the water feature. Now you will be able to find that water feature in its own individual video, and I'll kind of link the overall playlist at the very end of this video so you can kind of jump to the next one, or you can jump to the overall playlist and you can see all of the variations of the Goliath Birdeater dioramas that I have made up to date. Now I am avoiding painting that upper portions of the actual rock texture there. You can see there's still Mars Black right now, and that's because the log that we're going to create is actually saddling into those. So it's just going to settle right into those little nooks and crannies there, and it holds the log formation perfectly. And because the log is so heavy, we don't have to really worry about it going anywhere. You can see the titanium white and Mars Black base coat is really starting to build up here. We're getting a lot of raised bright highlights. But you can see a lot of depth in the overall texture of the rock, and that's what we're looking for. Now this is just the base coats. We're not actually into any detail layers quite yet. Looking pretty good. Now here we are up to this point here. I've already got the top right there with the dry brush layers done, and we have not done that on the base coat of the actual lower of the portion of the pillar. So you can see it's just a lot of difference there, and it's just incredible how just a little bit of dry brushing really just brings something to life like that. We're never really going for true absolute realism, but when you put everything together, it really does look very realistic. We're going to go ahead and jump in time here thanks to editing of the video, and we're going to go ahead and have the base coat of the bottom already dry brushed there. So we got that fully covered there, and it is matching the top. Now, if you're worried about them matching up in total, saturations, you would need to make sure you do any kind of washes at the same time, unless you're just really just know your mixture combinations. You don't want them to look like they're two different colors or anything like that. Just something that's really just off-putting because they look like they were painting it at like different stages or different colors. Looking pretty good up to this point, you guys. I'm liking how the rock formation is turning out. in the dry brush looks absolutely incredible. You can see here how the log kind of settles into those little divots of clay that I added to the top of the rock formation. And that's because I want to make sure that there's a gap between the rock formation and the actual log itself. You can see also that I have a little bit of texture here on this top portion of the rock, and that's where that branch is coming down and across. And I have a little bit of more of a striation type texture, so I just pulled my sculpting tools like horizontally through that in a lot of different motions and just gave it a lot of different texture, as opposed to more the stippling and random type that the other rock formations around the outside and the flat portions are. With that, we're going to go ahead and move on into a wash. Now this is a burnt umber wash, and we're going to go ahead and give this a nice layer of just wet, nasty color here. Now this is a dollar and rounding ink. You'll see me use these a lot throughout all of my creation videos, and we're going to go ahead and use this dollar and rounding burnt umber to go over all of the rock formations and go ahead and just give it a nice golden brown type of look. It's going to begin to activate all of the white portions of the rock while leaving a lot of the deeper, more so deeper grays in a shadow or more shadowed look. And it does take a few minutes just to get everything fully covered here. It is definitely a process, but the way that it goes over that rock formation and really activates it, it makes it very enjoyable. You can also let the water of these washes just really settle down naturally the way they would with the gravity into different like little nooks and crannies and hollers of the actual rock formation. And it also shows you where a lot of the dirt would be settling if there were dirt like floated on top of the item, or maybe like flocking were settling on it, or even liquid. If you wanted to do like a big liquid pour on top of it, then you could see a different version and see where that water would settle into. I'm going to be creating another one of these in the near future, and it's going to be a purple Goliath Birdeater tarantula, and I'm challenging myself in that overall creation video to make the water feature extremely large compared to this one. And it's just going to be a little bit different. So we're going to do a lot bigger water formation, and I may even do that in real time. So look forward to that video. Now the rock texture on the very top is almost completely finished. We're just going to do a little bit of fine tuning here and there, but we won't really like lock everything truly down until we do a little bit of flocking work and things like that, because we'll do some like dirty wash sprays after I apply some of that bright green flocking in the next video or piece of content for this series. And then when we spray that dirty wash on there, it actually darkens out the rock even a little bit more. And that dirty wash will settle into all the nooks and crannies and kind of just bring it even more depth out of the rock. It's all about layers, but not so much layers that it just kind of just washes out those higher highlights that you had applied to the top portions of the rock formation. You can even sometimes go as far as to actually putting those highlights in particular areas where you want the light from like a top light source to be shining down onto the rock formation. So you would want to make sure that some of those like nooks and crannies and the shadows underneath like the ledge of the back of this pillar formation have a lot more like shadow in the actual paint job as opposed to the top of the rock formation. The top of the rock should be a lot brighter than let's say the hole on the side of the item, right? So you just want to make sure that you kind of use the right shades of things and apply as many washes as you need to, just to get the realistic light and shadows of the rock that you have. Now, one of the things that we're going to do here in just a second in the next clip of this overall video is I'm actually going to go over the entire exterior of the item with a layer of Mod Podge. Now, the Mod Podge is going to be a protective layer that protects the outside rock formation. And when you do it all in one layer, it creates like a shell, just like the clay does over the foam core that we made. This is actually going to create a shell of just protective clear coat around the exterior of the rock. Now, you could also use a spray paint if you would like to, but a lot of times the spray paint, if you want, unless you want to do a lot of layers and then risk drips on the outside of the item, it's just easier just to go ahead and give it a PVA, like a stippling layer here. It's really pushing all of that PVA or Mod Podge glue into all of those cracks and crevices, and those cracks and crevices will still be visible in the end result of the item, but because it is a gloss or a clear coat, all of those rocks will be visible with the detail that we have sculpted. And here you are. It's a little bit dried here. It's a little bit wet in particular areas, but it is dry and clear and is giving a nice protective clear coat around the exterior. We don't have to worry about the aerosol. We don't have to worry about any of that. So we're able to do this inside the indoor studio, and it's water-based. So you just give it some time to dry, and it gives a nice, easy, clean, kind of like a less intrusive way to clear coat your item. And then once that is dried up completely, we'll actually go ahead and apply a little bit of flocking to this item. Now just be aware, I'm only applying fine flocking in the very first stages of the overall pillar painting detail work. I actually don't do any thicker grade of flocking until later on in the actual creation process after the spider's fully painted and things like that. Now just remember that this isn't actually in this content video. You can check this out in the next video when we are working specifically with flocking and things like that. Otherwise, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you guys on the next video of this awesome series. Who doesn't like a little bit of green? Like and subscribe. Later.